When it comes to discussing our bodies, we often get a little uncomfortable. Women's health issues are often seen as off limits. Taboo topics we just don't talk about. It's time for that to change. Let's talk. Welcome to the Bravemumma podcast, where we are going to do exactly that. Discuss everything from periods to pregnancy, motherhood to menopause. No topic is off limits. Join Stephanie Thompson, the brave mama and author of The Day My Vagina Broke, as she asks other brave women about their personal health challenges and triumphs. You will learn, laugh and cry as Stephanie finds out everything you wanted to know but were too afraid or embarrassed to ask. So, grab a cuppa and enjoy.
Hello, brave mamas. Are you ready to get the lowdown about everything women's health? I'm your host, Steph Thompson, and I can't wait to share our special guest with you today. A little birdie told me that our next guest loves a good cup of chai. So I've grabbed myself some Madam Flavor's sensual sultry chai. And today's guest is certainly a name we're becoming more familiar with, or more so her brand of period underpants that are changing the world and the worlds of women living with pelvic organ prolapse. Hello and welcome to the Bravemumma podcast. Today we have a very special guest, the CEO of Modibodi, Kristy Chong. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Stephanie.
Today, what we would like to do is that could you take us back to that moment after the birth of your second child and how you kind of noticed some incontinence issues for yourself?
Yeah, so the birth of my second child was actually really quick. I think between my waters breaking and him arriving, it was literally 50 minutes. So I just made it to the hospital and he came out. So my first was a lot longer and it was like a 15-hour process. I think partly that quick birth experience is probably what didn't do my pelvic floor any good. But yeah, I mean, like everybody after your birth, you obviously get a very, very weak bladder and you have that total lapse of urine, which I did. Yes. And I think I've had it after the four of them. But it took me a while actually to sort of recognise that what I had was incontinence. And so I sort of was having a leak here, small one here and there, which would catch me off guard, and I just was ignoring it. Totally ignorance about it all. And, I'd go to the supermarket, I'm buzzing at the toilet, and I'd go, damn, better drop the shopping and go home.
With two children
in tow. So it's fine, there's my jeans, the blue jeans, everyone could see that. So, I think that was sort of my experience. And then I thought, after probably about a year, I reckon it took that long.
Oh, right,
yeah,
okay.
So
of those little incidences along the way.
Yeah, to even recognise that it was, incontinence. Okay. And obviously I started training for the marathon then.
Okay.
And that's when it even became more apparent that I've got a problem.
When you're running?
Yeah, when I was running. I was like, okay, this is more of a problem than I even thought it was. So, somewhere between that 6 months and a year, that's when it all came about. It's not like a specific time frame. I don't think I ever admitted it until I sort of realised I wanted to solve the problem, which is quite bizarre, isn't it? That was the process I went through. Yeah.
Was the marathon around, doing the training for the marathon, was that kind of the moment when you probably thought, okay, I probably need to think about doing something about this?
I actually, it was, I suppose you have a lot of time to think, but it was during that period I did. I also thought, what are the solutions available to me? Sure. And I thought, damn, do I really have to wear disposable liners for the rest of my life? That just seems terrible. Yeah. And that's also, you have a lot of time running and thinking, and that's when I did come up with the idea for Modibodi, because I just didn't want to do that. One, I knew it was bad for the environment, and two, I wanted to feel more dignified. I wanted a product that would be convenient and also make me feel, better about myself as well. So then going on the journey of sort of admitting that I had something, that was a whole process in itself, to start learning and getting the right advice as to how do I actually improve my pelvic floor while work on a product at the same time.
Okay. Yeah, I can only imagine, like with the tenor lady style thing and the friction and the running. As a runner in my previous life, I can't even imagine what that would have felt like with a disposable lighter in between your legs.
Well, I didn't even get there. Oh no, so I never even got to using the disposable lighters. All I knew was my experience from using them for my period management, and obviously I've had heavy periods in my life as well, so I didn't even want to go there. That wasn't even an option. Okay. I was like, no way, I'm going to solve this problem. This is not right. People with incontinence deserve something better. Yes, we all need to work on that pelvic floor, and some of us can, and it doesn't always work for everybody, as we know. But I felt like at least I could give people some solution while they did, which was not disposable hygiene.
Yeah, right. So how did you get help with that? So where did you go, and how did you know where to go to get help for incontinence?
Look, I don't think... I spoke to family and friends, and that's where I started talking about what I actually had, and so that helped. Yeah. But I've seen physios since about it, so exercise and women's health physio, so that's been helpful.
Yep.
But I think there still is a lack of information, and even now working in Modibodi, I talk about this with mums. They go, yeah, I've got that problem too.
Yeah, they like whisper.
I've got that problem. Thank God for your undies. I've got that problem too. I'm like, but no, so they're still not. People are not admitting it, and they're not seeking help. I think the reality is there's not a concerted effort and enough education awareness around it in general, and women's health in general, be it menstruation or incontinence. Hence why we decided as a brand to do more of that and take that sort of position.
Okay. So that was around 2011. You had that idea where you were running and training. And then in 2013 was one of your official launches.
Yes,
right?
It was, yeah.
So then we fast forward to 2021. And how did you know, well, when did you kind of know, more so, that back in 2011 that this was going to be something much bigger than just undies? And by that, I mean, when did you know you were going to be like a social advocate for women's health and women's rights?
Well, thank you for saying that, actually. I really do appreciate it. I actually think when I launched this business and this product, obviously I wanted to give people a better solution, but I wasn't going to do it in the typical way of marketing a product. I wanted to, give people someone to look at that would represent them. That to me, if I was going to launch a apparel product, I was not going to go do it in this, designer. I'm going to be all beautified and photoshopped way. I actually felt just deep within me it was time for change. It was time not only for a better product, but that women saw themselves in the marketing and it was reflected back at them. And that also, if I was going to make this work, I probably needed to share my story and I needed to be authentic.
A lot of bravery to do that, right?
A lot of bravery to speak out about my own issue with incontinence and but was the right thing. And it has proved to be, the feedback that I kept getting, as I said, from mums is, Thank you. So just those little stories, that little bit of customer feedback just kept egging me on. Okay, we're onto something. These people are telling us what they want to hear. They don't want to see all that, In fact, I had a marketer just interestingly tell me, well, if you're going to talk about quite, gross and icky topics, then you need to present it in a way that's beautified and dignified. And I just went, I'm going to do the exact opposite, actually, because I think that's what people actually want to hear. We want the truth.
Yes.
It was just, I think it was right at that right time when people were seeking transparency and truth in marketing. I certainly was. So I just followed my gut.
Yeah, because as a mum, and as a mum now of 2 children, when I looked at your brand and I saw what you were doing, I could relate. I felt like, oh, mum to mum, you get me, you see me. I'm not an Instagram person and I don't have a huge tens of thousands of followings and I don't post all the time, but I feel like we could connect from mum to mum. And I think that was important. So back when I discovered Modibodi, it was because a family member who was a teenager was getting her period really young.
Right. Yeah.
And it was said, oh, you should try them, Steph, because you've got prolapse and you can't wear tampons anymore. So women, 1 in 2 women will have pelvic organ prolapse, who a majority of those women can no longer wear tampons. Yeah. And I'm one of those. And so to have that back to pads... it just transported me back to high school, running around with my jumper tied around my waist because I didn't want to see the boys to see my surfboard. And so I was really going, oh my God, I am 30-something and I feel like I'm 13. I stink. They're disgusting. They're gross. I have to put them in my pocket. They fell. My kids flip them around out of the nappy bag. So when I actually first I was like, oh, how would that work?
That's the first question.
How would that work?
How would that work?
Yeah. So did a bit of research and thought, okay, for me, it was the fact that you could try them, and if they didn't work for you, there was no strings attached. I could send them back. It's like, okay, let's do it. There was no decision really hard to make. So when I did try them, I was like, oh my God, these are a game changer for me. I feel human. I feel me again. And I can have my period and I don't have to wear a tampon, but I still don't feel like I'm that teenager. Yeah. And then when I found out you had swimwear, I didn't have to sit at the side of the pool every week during summer and watch everyone else have a bloody good time. I got to jump in too. So that is quite significant for someone who lives with pelvic organ prolapse, who has to live this adjusted, modified new way of living as a mom. To just feel normal to jump in the pool with their kids is amazing. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Make me a little teary now.
Don't start because I'll start. So you know what? I would love to probably talk a little bit more about why it's so hard to talk about periods, because I didn't talk a lot about it with my mum or my sister. I just remember our first experience of, my sister yelling, go get mum. I'm like, what's wrong? Just get her. And it was all like a big secret, right? So that's why they call it secret women's business. But I guess from someone who works in it on a daily basis, why do you think it is still such a secret right now when the rest of our lives are open for public forum on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok now especially? Why is this still a taboo?
Yeah, I think because anything that is associated with bodily leaks is seen as a bit icky. And so because it's icky, it's shameful. Okay. Even though for most part it's quite natural, or it's a side effect of, having children, or aging for a lot of people as well. So, or exercising, like sweat is, but it's just part of us. And it's really interesting because, at Modibodi we're talking about, to live is to leak, and so you're living, and it's part of you, and so that's what we're always trying to talk about, that self-acceptance. Yes. And I think humans have struggled with that it's part of our life, but we just don't want to accept it. So I think the more that brands like us can do to bring this out into the public forum, and sort of, we don't have to celebrate it, we have to say what it is, but we have to normalise the conversation and take away those words like secret women's business or your rags or whatever you want to call your leakage. We need to use the correct information, correct facts, and educate our young people early. That is a big
daughters
part of
and sons.
Daughters
right?
and sons.
Yeah,
yes.
Not just the daughters, but the sons to know how to help their sisters, mothers,
correct.
Eventually girlfriends, wives, or partners, or whatever, friends, whatever.
Everybody, because the earlier you get in, then you change that behaviour. I think we all know that. But there's not been a lot of concerted government education around it. It's sort of stuck within PE, and it's and in fact they spend more time on sex education than they used to on menstrual education.
Absolutely. You learnt more about semen than you did your own body fluids,
which is ridiculous. I'm glad to say there is change, and we work with a number of groups like Bright Girl Health and others who are out there in schools, but not enough funding still behind it. So I think there needs to be more at the school level to help that change. And then it's great to have people like you talking about it. That's what we need. We need our, everybody just being more open. And I think, we're sharing my story and then others sharing their story, we create that change as
and
well.
that we're normal.
And we're normal.
We're not the hippie,
but
banging the drum of feminism. It's just that we are just normal mums wanting to live a very normal, trying to live a very normal life.
And I think that, especially in the incontinence angle, the association with the older population, while us mums talking about it also helps go, well, it's not just an old elderly person issue. And in fact, 1 in 8 younger people also suffer from stress or urge incontinence, which is really not spoken about. So even more shameful for those people because, I haven't even had a baby and I've got it.
And it's not menopause.
It's not menopause, it's not expected. So again, just bringing the facts to life continually in a very open and factual way.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good. I even remember I wrote in one of my blogs that when I first had Modibodi and I had to wash them, my initial thought was, oh, I've got to touch that.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But then now I'm like, I'm proud. I'm rinsing that going,
It's
wow,
so good
that's
to hear
cool.
that.
And I hang them on the sink, and my husband is no longer irked by it either,
Yeah.
because he knows I washed it. That's fine. But he doesn't have to kind of do that whole, ew,
Yeah.
yuck, because it's okay.
Yeah.
Because it's the same blood that's in my hand, that's
Yeah.
in my... That if I bleed from my head, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's not germy.
It's not germy.
It's not
It's
riddled
all
with
fine.
something.
No.
It's the same body stuff that we have everywhere. And then, I love that. It's so good. And it actually made me feel a bit more proud to be a woman, actually.
Yes, that's what I say when you actually do bleed and you're not actually plugging it up. And I think, a lot of this goes back in the 50s, they overly medicalised menstruation. So they came out with these products and they said, you're unhygienic if you don't use them, and this is what you need to do. And that's why they used blue fluid. They never showed what it actually looked like. So they just hid it all away, because years ago, women did actually free bleed because there was no product.
And they had rags.
Yeah.
And they used to have to wash them.
It was. And we've just taken all that process away and replaced it with a really bad option that's bad for people and bad for the environment. I think we're realising that in a lot of areas of our life.
Yes, I do too. It feels like there's a bit of an awakening.
I agree.
Right? And this is the perfect timing for this. So in your website, you've used the word unmentionable, and I think we've kind of talked about the taboos, but who were you able to turn to most back in the early days of incontinence? Was it your best friend or your husband? Who was your confidant that you said, I think I've got incontinence?
Yeah.
Who was that first person? For those mums who are listening, who feel like they've got something, they don't have the confidence to tell anybody, who did you tell?
I told my friends.
Okay.
I spoke with my group of friends actually in Seattle about it,
Oh,
and
right.
that's...
Was it like a mother's group?
It was actually friends I met through the park, actually.
Okay,
So it was, I was trying to meet anybody I could because I'd moved to Seattle as an Aussie, and actually it's quite easy in being an Aussie in America. And so, I met them at the park, and then we ended up doing music lessons together with our kids similar ages. So, and then obviously grew to form a good friendship with them over a few months, and that's who I told. So I only known them about 3 months, but I felt confident in telling them about it. Yeah. And look, I think once they shared their stories, I started speaking to other friends and family who shared their stories. So
and
you just have to get over it. Right? It's common. Yeah. It's very common. And you just have to get over that initial hurdle. I now, and maybe it's hard for me to go back because I just don't have any shame about it at all. Not one little bit.
So good. That's so good.
It's sort of hard for me even to go back there now, because once you keep talking about it, it's like anything in life. The more you talk about it and you open yourself up to it, the less shame that you hold.
Yeah, and the more desensitized you are to it. At first, when I wrote the book, I couldn't even say the word vagina in front of my dad.
Yeah.
And now it's like he blushes less and less.
Yeah.
So now he's like, okay. But he doesn't blush anymore. He doesn't try and look away. He can actually look at me and say, I'm so proud of you for doing that.
Good on you.
So good.
That's awesome. And it's so true. It's using the words.
Yes. The technical language that
language that it is, and I'm already teaching my 2-year-old to say the word vagina.
Good.
That's good.
That's so good.
It's not an easy word to say, but I'm getting there.
And if they make their own little version, at least they know what they say.
Yes, exactly.
My daughter knows what vulva means, and she knows that vulva is not her vagina. And I know some people might be horrified by that, because she's 5. But it's really important that she knows how to label her body parts the same way her brother will know the difference between his penis and his testicles.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's totally fine.
Agree.
Right?
Yes.
We had a laugh about that, the Gwyneth Paltrow episode on Goop, where she didn't know what her vulva was.
Oh, I know. That was...
And the sex educator was saying, that's not your vagina. But we all laughed at Gwyneth Paltrow. But on the inside, a lot of them saying,
what is it?
Hang on, is that not my vagina? Oh my God. Oh, it's different. Oh, okay. But then no one actually said anything because we were too embarrassed, because we were never taught that at school.
No.
It was always just one name, one area.
Nothing
Don't
else.
Talk about it. Don't look at it. Don't
look at it. I remember Honiswa, which is the University of Sydney, put out a publication with just pictures of different looking vulvas, and I just thought that was brilliant. I think that was not long after I started Modibodi, and that came out. It was on the rise of the second wave of feminism. And it was awesome. I was like, great stuff.
So there's an art museum in Hobart that have the Great Wall of Vulva. It's all vulva castings. And people, I know, have had family that have visited that said, it's bizarre. I'm like, no, it's great.
Really good.
Because other girls can look at it and go, oh,
Yeah.
actually, mine doesn't look like
that.
it does in the TV, but it looks like that. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty normal. I'm good.
Yeah, I think that's the important part of it. Like we're doing with bodies and inclusivity and diversity and people that we choose, we need to do that with the vulvas too.
Yes, yeah, that's so true. So I guess what would be good to know, and I think it's probably more of a personal question, I guess, what has been the biggest barriers for Modibodi to reach mainstream media? So if there has been any, I'm assuming there has been, what would they have been?
Oh, there was absolute barriers at the very beginning. They didn't want to touch it. And in fact, once we finally did secure a morning show program, they called them comfy undies.
Comfy undies?
Comfy. They would not talk about what they did. Just look at this new Aussie brand of comfy undies. And we're like, awesome, that's great. That's
one step closer.
One step. Getting those, the anchors, I suppose, they were probably the worst.
Okay.
The good news is we just persisted, and I'm very thankful for the micro-influencers, the mums who joined with us on that journey and said, yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll join you. We'll support you.
Yeah.
Because they've been with us creating that change. And in the early days, we couldn't get anyone to, post a photo of them in their period and pee-proof undies. Not at all. And now we get, hundreds
Everyone
of
wants to.
Everyone wants to. So... it was hard, and I did question myself a lot. I did go, well, maybe this is just too tough because I'm trying to create a whole new category and a way to manage.
And culture.
And as well as start a whole new business. So it was challenging.
And be a mum.
At the same time.
4 children.
Yes, 4 kids. It was challenging, but...
And a wife.
And a wife.
And a Kristy.
That part I'm probably not doing as well at the moment. But anyway, we go up and down. That's a really healthy relationship. And he's always supported me. So,
That's amazing.
I'm very lucky to have a partner who has backed me 100% of the way, because it's not easy being an entrepreneur. It's not easy being a mum either.
No, yes. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so what do you think we need to do next? As in mothers and society, and then the population in general. What do we need to do to help this momentum of the amazing things that you're doing to help our daughters in their future when it comes to their periods and things?
Well, firstly, we need, big publishers like Facebook who banned our ad because it showed it was too violent and grotesque. That's what they said, because we showed menstrual menstrual fluid, represented menstrual fluid.
But it wasn't blood, right?
It wasn't. It was just representation.
Sure. Like they do in the movies when someone's shot.
Correct.
There's blood everywhere, and there's guts and
everything. But just having a little bit on a sheet and a few other on the pads was too much.
Wow.
And so they banned it, but we lobbied and we got support, and they actually overturned that ban, which we believe is great, and hopefully that continually pushing back on those big media and big publishers will help create change.
Yeah.
But I think what parents need to do, and I don't want to say just mums because it's a parental responsibility, that might always lean a little bit more on the mother, is to have the conversation, with the person in your house who is likely to menstruate. Do that. Have the conversation. Talk about it. Talk about your experience.
Yeah.
That it's, as I said, it's icky. It can be messy. It can be also quite debilitating for some people. It can be painful.
Oh, yeah.
Have all that conversation. Don't shy away from it. And then, as I mentioned before, we need brands like ours to continue on that path, and government. Government continually need to get involved and fund and educate more.
Sure.
So we'll do our part, of course, to be part of that, of that journey, but we'd love to get some consistent approach to it, so that there's the same information being given. So if it's not being given at home, at least you're getting it in schools.
Yeah, because you always have those particular types of families that wouldn't feel comfortable, because that's been the intergenerational trend, that's secret women's business, and you don't talk about it, and it's just part of life, and don't make a big hoo-ha.
No, that's right.
Yes,
and it is taboo, and it's interesting because we're launching a campaign at the moment around period poverty, and a lot of that taboo and not talking about it is why people don't have access to, they won't access products. So it actually escalates. It causes bigger problems when we don't open those conversations. And the same goes, I would say, for all leakage and all issues that we face. There's just not enough education and women's health in general.
Yes.
It's seriously underfunded, and there's not enough product innovation in this space as well.
Yeah, that femtech space
that
is
femtech
really
space
growing, isn't it?
Very much growing, and
Yeah.
I'm always a big champion of others who are taking that journey.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot we can do to support women and their health.
Yeah, wonderful. That's amazing. It's such good insight.
Thank you.
It's really nice to hear it. Now, we do have 3 questions from our Bravemumma audience.
Okay.
Now, some of them are, Modibodi related, but one of the questions was also, what did you do before Modibodi as Kristy?
That's a good question. So I worked in corporate communications and PR and a little bit in marketing. So I worked in agency, and I'd also worked in-house for some big multinational corporations. So that's where I sort of had a good balance of understanding budgeting and how to run at a really fast pace.
Yep.
But also getting an inside of how global business runs as well. So that's what I did.
So it's nice to have that bit of background.
Yeah.
And where does the name Modibodi come from?
So it comes from modified apparel
Okay.
to offer better performance for your body.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
I don't talk about that very
I was
often.
going to say, I looked for something and I couldn't find it on the website.
We don't share it. I think I canned that very early on.
Did you?
Yeah.
But it's so
funny.
good.
I know, but it just wasn't, well, at the time that wasn't working. I mean, even to talk about performance clothing or underwear, and then you're like, what? You know, what do you mean undies that do things? You know, they're just something you throw on. And so we've really been able to change that dialogue, that actually your clothes should do something for your body. They shouldn't really just be something you throw on.
Just
so that's,
put on.
That's where we've got to.
Good.
That's good.
And one of the mums wanted to know, what is the maximum level of liquid, either blood or urine, that the underpants can hold?
Yes, so our maxi 24 hours will hold between 50 to 100 mils actually. So that might seem like a big range.
Yep.
But so we talk about 50 mils to leakage point and 100 mils across the whole gusset. So if you're if you're laying down at night, you might get more absorbency from that gusset
because it goes down the back.
Because it's going down the back versus if you're standing up. And all of our products have third-party global scientific testing behind them to verify those claims of what we hold.
Yep.
So it's just interesting because I know there's other brands on the market that talk about just what the gusset holds, but they don't talk about leakage point. Which,
That's the point of difference.
That's the point of difference.
You know, I was really fascinated to learn in my 30s that when you menstruate, you usually only have about 11 mils of blood.
Correct.
And here I was thinking we were like Niagara Falls. It feels like it on the first
it does.
day.
The first day is the shocker.
But then when they measure and it's about 11 mils, you think, oh, is that all?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm okay.
It's so true.
And it depends, obviously, on individual women, but I was really surprised to know that.
It's not very much. And, the average is 35 to 70 mils over your whole period.
For the 4 or 5 days. Yeah.
For heavy periods, it's about double that. But some people have to change their bodies a little bit more for those people. But that's why we did make the 50 mils, but also for those with incontinence as well.
Because that's totally separate to period. So quite funnily, what I'd started out with for my period over the 5 days, I had 4 pairs. So you wear one in the morning, wash, change in the nighttime and they take a little while to dry, which is good.
Yep.
That's why I had them, and slowly my cotton pairs have disappeared and my Modibodi bras got me, because you can just wear them every day, right?
Yes.
Like I wear them every single day, and the best ones, I will say, for women with pelvic organ prolapse are the maternity ones, because they've got that lovely V shape.
They do.
That go down, that don't put pressure on your tummy, that don't push your prolapse down further. So they are every day.
That's right. So we're just coming out in June with a maxi 24 hours in that style. So there you go.
That's exciting.
I can talk about it now.
Wow. I love a bit of insight for our podcast. Thank you. And thank you very much for our chat today. It's been really lovely talking with you and getting some extra insight on Modibodi and your journey as well as a mum and a human being. And thank you so much for all you're doing.
Thanks, Steph. I have so much admiration and respect for you as well, because you're out there pushing the agenda. I love it.
Thank you. That's really great. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Well, who would have thought that talking about periods could actually be fun and you can have a laugh. Kristy is really turning this whole period conversation on its head. I felt so comfortable talking with, well, at the time, really was a total stranger, about my own periods and prolapse. I know the women in our pop community are grateful they now have options when it comes to managing their periods and incontinence, living with prolapse. The fact that you can still swim has been probably the biggest game changer for me personally when I've got my periods in summer. I know a friend of mine actually who decided to purchase a pack of the period underpants for her teenage daughter because she found the conversations less daunting than showing her, the tampon applicator or the pad. And I love the fact that one day my girl Elsie won't have to feel embarrassed about having her period. And probably more so that she's not going to look at her mum and say, "Ew, yuck, I don't want to talk about it." So thank you to Kristy and Modibodi for all the amazing work you're doing. Okay, ladies, we need to tune in to our next episode where periods and vaginas are the only thing that they talk about. That's right. We're heading all the way over to London for a chat with the creators of the Vagina Museum. Stay tuned. Until then, bye for now.